Okay, we're going to do the next step. This one's really straightforward. Once you have your drawing done, you're not going to use the carbon paper yet. All we're going to do is trace it so that we have that template. Beauty of this is going to be you can use it multiple times if your underpainting doesn't turn out the way you want. A lot of times you have to redo the underpainting several times. After you've transferred it, gets messed up, you can retransfer. So same as before, you tape it down. You want to make sure it's stable. But I said before I didn't have you get the big tracing sheets because it's just ridiculous to spend that kind of money for one class if you only use a few sheets. So these are cheap, but the problem is you have to tape them together, which isn't that big of a deal. I like to use Scotch tape to do it. Just going to cover the whole thing. Okay, that's good enough. When you do start tracing, what you want to do is use a pen, not a pencil. You can press a lot on this one because this is not going on to anything. When you're actually transferring with the carbon onto the watercolor paper that we're going to be doing the splatter on, that one you don't want to press really hard because it just makes a dent. Great thing though is that yellow is so faint, it's really hard to see, which is really, really good. And then once you get this taped together, if you tape it also to the table, that's really helpful too. And then you'll have this template laying around for any redos. A lot of times you'll redo more so in this medium than any other one. Alright, now we just trace. You just want to trace really carefully. We're not tracing the values that we made to help render. A lot of those marks were gesture values and filling and blending to help see where things were. I'm not going to trace much in here. I mentioned before that it was so faint on the picture that if I emphasize this, it's going to look like a big bicycle wheel. When I do transfer this little bit that I'm doing, I'm going to do it super light. And I'm making it lost and found here, just to remind myself, because when I do use the yellow, anytime you use a line, unless you're drawing like something graphic, like a letter or number or something, you always want to vary the pressure. So I'm kind of practicing my lost and found here. Kind of more pressure, less pressure. This is good practice too. This is a clean line. This is not a sketchy line. What we're going to be doing is creating this template, and then I'll show you the next step. I think it's important to show you the steps because to completion, basically. I mean, not as completed as yours will be, but just so you can really get a sense. I think one of the hardest parts of this is the last step because it calls for different things depending on what it is. That was sort of a wobbly one. It would help if my table weren't wobbly. Hopefully that's still even. Let me double check. Yeah, it's still even enough. You can fast forward through this. I'm just gonna put this underneath the leg of this chair. There, it's better. Much better. You're not losing all the important elements that you created underneath. That is what makes this good, is that you did all that work. And you have the original drawing that you can draw upon when you get to the last step. It's hard to move around this stand. Wobbly. So that's the next step. I will do the rest on my own because this is just tedious, but you get the idea. And definitely don't use a wobbly table because that's not helpful. I didn't know it was wobbly till I was sitting here. So you just go through. If there's something you feel like you missed, you can always peek underneath and see what it was. But it doesn't need to be that elaborate in terms of all the things we did on the drawing. So, and it's hard for you to see probably from up there, but you can just keep smoothing it out and see what you've missed. And the beauty is when you did use all those values, it makes it easier to see where to put the lines. So that is the next stage. I'm going to finish this up and then I'll show you the next stage.